So, Final Fantasy XVI came out a few weeks ago, and I think it's pretty fair to say that I really enjoyed the game. The story has a darker tone than some other Final Fantasies, with pretty much nothing funny at all in it.
Why, the beast has the appetite of a behemoth. Just this very morn, I found him with his nose buried in my nuts.
Alright, maybe some funny things, if you're silly like me and find these nuts a hilarious joke. But while the story can be predictable at times, it did not fail to explore its themes well. And while I could go on and on about the subject, which I'm sure you all would love because my voice is just gorgeous, I want to focus on what we can get out of the game's best side quest, which is aptly named Playthings. Through it, I hope to 1. Show why I find it the best side quest. 2. Show how eerily similar to real life this game gets. And 3. Use it to discuss the game's themes of freedom, slavery, amongst others. If it wasn't clear by now, consider this your only and final warning. This video will contain lots of spoilers for Final Fantasy XVI, including ending stuff. I'll give you like 3 seconds to get out of the video if this is something that will bother you. It took me over 3 seconds to read the previous and this sentence, so I imagine you're gone by now. And if you're not gone, haven't played the game and care about spoilers? Damn, I hope to one day play with fire as well as you do. Alright, here we go. The game has a lot of themes it tackles, some of which earned the mainline series' very first mature rating by the ESRB. Though I'm not quite sure how much that means, because I distinctly remember playing GTA San Andreas, an adult racing game, well before I was an adult, but you know, I digress. Wait, did I just confess to a crime by saying I played the game before being an adult? Is the cyber police coming for me? Well, if this video is uploaded incomplete, you know what happened. But despite all the themes treated in the game, the one that really stuck with me was actually how we as humans treat each other. In Final Fantasy XVI, those born with an innate ability to use magic are called bearers. If a person is not a bearer, they must use a rare resource called a crystal to channel ether from the air and use magic. So naturally, upon seeing that some folks were able to just use magic without the rare resource, humanity proceeded to do the only logical thing, which is, you know, respect their power and live in harmony. If that was the case, this script wouldn't even need to exist. No, instead, humanity proceeded to enslave those who could use magic, forcing them to work so that crystals would not need to be bought. Throughout the game, it's revealed that bearers are often identified as such even within the womb, and the world's so far gone into insane territory that parents instantly get disgusted and sell their kids as soon as they are born. Yup. Those sold into empires are branded with, well, a brand to their cheek, marking them as scum of the scum for life. Or, you know, until someone takes a knife to the brand and turns it into a weirdly shaped scar. In the game, we follow the journey of Cid 1 and then Cid 2, not to be mistaken for the eventual implied Cid 3, as they all try to change the way the world works. Bearers should not be made to suffer for being who they are, after all. And sure enough, slowly but surely we make a difference in Final Fantasy XVI's world, leaving our very own brand there, albeit one of hope and not despair. This theme, this fight for freedom, is present throughout the game in many ways in which I'll talk about soon, but I think the most masterfully presented example has got to be a side quest in which Clive helps a little girl find a lost, well, quote-unquote, pet. So, without further ado, here's Chloe's story and everything that side quest signified. The side quest is located in a village called Moor, warned to us as being extremely intolerant of bearers. There, we find a little girl named Lisette, looking worried. She asks Clive if he's seen, her Chloe, saying that she was let out of her pen while Lisette did her chores and never came back. Ever the gallant knight, Clive agrees to help. Lisette describes Chloe as having beautiful white hair, as being such a good girl, quiet and kind. Chloe also likes walking in the wheat. Lisette is especially worried because she has not fed Chloe yet, who's gone without food since the prior day. Rest easy, Lisette, Clive is on the case. We ask a random woman for tips and she says that Chloe, who she called a filthy creature in Lisette's plaything, was, and I quote, sniffing about the windmill. The woman also scolds Lisette, claiming she's old enough to know that she needs to tie her pet up after playing with her. Harsh and potentially abusive towards animals, so this is pretty bad already, but hey, it can't get worse, right? Well, that's what I thought, until I found Chloe.
The crystal's curse.
Chloe, I was calling you. Didn't you hear me?
What?
Honestly, this quest hit me like a sack of bricks. Chloe was not a dog. Chloe was an actual human being. A child used so terribly for her bearer powers that she started turning to stone, a result of the crystal curse, and given to Lisette after she lost her utility. And the worst part? This isn't even the first Chloe. There were more owned by Lisette alone, and who knows how many others throughout the game's world. While the earlier side quests in Final Fantasy XVI are really nothing to write home about, as evidenced by the fact that this animation of Clive handing in an item is probably ingrained in your memory by now.
Do you want that or not?
This one was quite possibly the best quest in the entire game. Until this point, we've seen how bearers are treated. We've seen that those who are branded have no voice. But this is the moment that, for me, made it clear just how big the issue is via masterful, vague storytelling that effectively equates a person to a dog. Wonderful creatures that, unfortunately, lots of people in our world see as undeserving of love and affection. Just inferior beings treated as nuisances. And weirdly enough, this mirrors the whole central conflict of the game. Ultima, the world's god, created humans to cultivate a perfect vessel and then went to sleep. Ultima didn't bother to answer our prayers or keep watch to make sure nothing happened. They didn't need to. After all, why would you worry about a meaningless sack of bones rebelling? Why would you worry about an insect standing up to you? To Ultima, humanity was made up solely of Chloes. Perceived mindless slaves made to serve Ultima's every desire. Even Clive, the so-called precious vessel, was just a special Chloe. The other quest in Moore also hits hard on the point of bearers being treated as subhuman by presenting us with a father and a child who both hire weak bearers' services from their masters, only to get them killed by a pet wolf while the family laughs. But for me, Lisette still takes the cake due to how innocent everything is. The father and child were mistreating the bearers on purpose as a sport. But here, the kid genuinely believed Chloe was just, I don't even know, a pet. Something to be replaced once they turned into a stone. Something with no feelings, family, will. She didn't treat Chloe badly on purpose, this was just how she was taught, and she never knew any different, as evidenced by her crying after Clive teaches her the error of her ways. And goddamn, it's horrible to think about the fact that many people in that world are treated this way, isn't it? And it only gets worse the more you analyze it. Let me give you an example. During the main quest, Martha tells you to go to the church, in which you find bearers almost turning to stone. Turns out Martha buys them when their utility runs out for their masters. God, I feel extremely disgusted even just saying these words. Her intent is to care for the bearers in their final days so that they may at least die feeling some sort of love, as most are sold as babies and grow up just miserable. However, if you pay attention to the folks at the church, you'll see most of them are adults. Sure, there is some difference between each individual and their tolerance for the crystal's curse, but still, lots of them only get, for lack of a better word, spent when they reach adulthood. Lisette, however, has had many Chloes, all likely to be children. If normally slaves managed to get to adulthood before turning to stone, imagine just how much these children were put to work if they all turned to stone possibly over a decade before reaching the adulthood point. Honestly, there is no happiness here. No joke to be made for this moment in the video. There's only disgust. And the worst part is that, as I said in the beginning, this is eerily close to real life. I'm sure I don't need to tell any of you about slavery, right? And even though it's officially no longer a thing in lots of parts in the world, it still is in quite a few. And while not always as radical as shown in the game, it's a fact that people still get treated like shit sometimes just for being who they are. And that's everywhere. Racism, prejudice, none of these things have a specific address and are common occurrences throughout our world. So, yeah, I'm not ashamed to say that I had to stop for a while after this damn quest because fuck, dude. And the similarities with our real life don't stop there either. Chloe's tale got me really invested and I just couldn't stop noticing more and more details. One that really stayed with me was one of the first times we saw the medicine girl, if not the very first. She offers a potion to Jill, who politely declines and apologizes. The girl then offers a quick polite blessing before walking away to peddle her goods to other potential customers. And the kicker? We later on find out that this very kind girl lives alone in slums, making barely enough money to eat bread. Just bread.
It was my poultices that saw you well.
You make them?
And sell them, or try to. Earns me enough for bread, most days.
Forgive me. I have nothing to...
I know, but I couldn't just leave you lying there.
I don't know about all of you, but I live in Brazil and this might as well have been the story of one of our many citizens living below poverty line. The same resigned look that the medicine girl gave Jill before quickly moving on is the same look that I've seen on countless people on the streets here.
I'm sorry. I wish you well, but may the mothers guide you. Calmatives, curatives, restoratives.
And man, does it hurt every single time. But at least for Final Fantasy XVI, not all is without hope. At the end of the day, Clive did it. He got rid of everything that was killing the world, both by war and by blight, and made it a place where Chloe would no longer be a slave, a plaything, pet. It was unfortunately too late for her, but as I said, there are probably countless Chloes out there, and those were saved. The game ended, after all, with kids playing with a puppy, and thus I'm choosing to believe the world is all fixed up now, alright? But that would be naive, wouldn't it? As Clive himself said,
We are imperfect creatures.
as such, people will always cause each other suffering, whether intentional or not. But at least for that world, I see hope. One may think both Cid's legacy was to rid the world of magic, but I think it's a lot more than just that. I think they've inspired people there to always fight against those who would take their freedom, against those who would take advantage of and look down upon others. And while we can't know for sure that the new world at the end of the game is safe for all Chloes to come, I would like to think so. Above all the suffering and pain showcased in Final Fantasy XVI, I'm choosing to focus on the message of hope delivered at the end. Even with big sacrifices, humanity, seen as a ton of Chloes by Ultima, was able to overcome their perceived fate to serve a god and create a new future for themselves. I mean, yes, this was a JRPG, and as such, this change was done by the main character and his team rather than humanity itself, but the message, I think, is that somehow it can be done. And in a game that mirrors our own real life so much in some of these themes, I can only hope that our real life too eventually mirrors some of these positive conclusions reached within the game. I know I at least will always work towards that, doing whatever little I can day by day so that one day our Chloes too may have a brighter future. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you hopefully in the next video.